Daily Words of God. To come before God to accept His words as your life, you must first be at peace before God. Only when you are at peace before God will God enlighten you and give you knowledge. The more at peace people are before God, the more they are able to receive God's enlightenment and illumination. All this requires people to have piety and faith. Only thus can they be made perfect. The fundamental lesson for entering spiritual life is being at peace in God's presence. Only if you are at peace in God's presence will all your spiritual training be effective. If your heart is incapable of being at peace before God, you will be unable to receive the work of the Holy Spirit. If your heart is at peace before God, no matter what you are doing, then you are someone who lives in God's presence. If your heart is at peace before God and draws close to God no matter what you are doing, this proves that you are a person who is at peace before God. If, when you are talking with others or walking, you are able to say, "My heart is drawing close to God and is not focused on external things, and I can be at peace before God," then you are someone who is at peace before God. Do not engage with anything that pulls your heart toward external matters, or with people who separate your heart from God. Whatever it is that can distract your heart from being close to God, put it aside or stay away from it. This is of greater benefit to your life. Now is precisely the time for the great work of the Holy Spirit, the time when God personally makes people perfect. If, at this moment, you cannot be at peace before God, then you are not someone who will return before the throne of God. If you pursue things other than God, there will be no way for you to be perfected by God. Those who can hear such utterances from God and yet fail to be at peace before Him today are people who do not love the truth and do not love God. If you will not offer yourself at this moment, what are you waiting for? To offer oneself is to quiet one's heart before God. That would be a genuine offering. Whoever truly offers their heart to God now is assured of being completed by God. Nothing, no matter what it is, can disturb you, whether it is to prune you or deal with you, or whether you meet with frustration or failure. Your heart should always be at peace before God. No matter how people treat you, your heart should be at peace before God. No matter what circumstances you encounter, whether you are beset by adversity, suffering, persecution, or different trials, your heart should always be at peace before God. Such are the paths to being made perfect. Only when you are truly at peace before God will God's current words become clear to you. You can then practice more correctly and without deviation the Holy Spirit's illumination and enlightenment. Grasp with greater clarity God's intentions, which will give your service a clearer direction. Grasp more accurately the moving and guidance of the Holy Spirit, and be assured of living under the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Such are the effects achieved by truly being at peace before God. When people are not clear about God's words, have no path to practice, fail to grasp God's intentions, or lack the principles of practice, this is because their hearts are not at peace before God. The purpose of being at peace before God is to be earnest and pragmatic, to seek correctness and transparency in God's words, and ultimately to arrive at understanding the truth and knowing God. If your heart is not often at peace before God, God has no means of perfecting you. Being without resolve is tantamount to having no heart, and a person without a heart cannot be at peace before God. Such a person does not know how much work God does, or how much He speaks, nor do they know how to practice. Is this not a person without a heart? Can a person without a heart be at peace before God? God has no means of perfecting people without a heart. They are no different from beasts of burden. God has spoken so clearly and transparently, yet your heart remains unmoved, and you remain incapable of being at peace before God. Are you not a dumb brute? Some people go astray in practicing being at peace in God's presence. When it is time to cook, they do not cook. And when it is time to do chores, they do not do them, but just go on praying and meditating. Being at peace before God does not mean not cooking or doing chores, or not living one's life. Rather, it is being able to quiet one's heart before God in all normal states, and to have a place for God in one's heart. When you pray, you should kneel down properly before God to pray. When you do chores or prepare food, quiet your heart before God. Ponder God's words or sing hymns. No matter what situation you find yourself in, you should have your own way to practice. You should do everything you can to draw close to God. And you should try with all your might to quiet your heart before God. When circumstances permit, pray single-mindedly. When circumstances do not permit, draw near to God in your heart while doing the task at hand. When you can eat and drink God's words, then eat and drink His words. When you can pray, then pray. When you can contemplate God, then contemplate Him. In other words, do your utmost to train yourself for entry according to your environment. Some people can be at peace before God when nothing is the matter, but as soon as something happens, their minds wander. That is not being at peace before God. The correct way to experience is this: under no circumstances does one's heart depart from God, or feel disturbed by outside people, events, or things. And only then is one a person who is truly at peace before God. Some people say that when they pray in assemblies, their hearts can be at peace before God. But in fellowship with others, they are incapable of being at peace before God, and their thoughts run wild. This is not being at peace before God. Today, most people are in this state, their hearts incapable of always being at peace before God. Thus, you must put more effort into exercising yourselves in this area. Enter, step by step, upon the right track of life experience, and embark upon the path of being perfected by God.